So good morning, everybody. Today is an important day. Allies are discussing amongst ourselves about the NATO future, about Ukraine. I want to make some points. The first thing is we need to get rid of this hesitation that Russia cannot lose. Russia can lose and Russia must lose. So we need to support Ukraine. We need to give all needed military support to Ukraine right now. And also we need to secure that the Ukraine will survive the winter. Ukrainians are fighting heavily right now. They have willingness to fight and we need to support them. The second thing is about the security guarantees. Everybody's talking about security guarantees. I see too many peace initiatives. I counted them, more than 27 different peace initiatives. But the case is that Putin has not changed the goal. So we need to put Putin to change the goal. And the goal is now to destroy Ukraine, not to gain more territories. So it's obvious. Third thing, this is not anymore the Russian aggression against Ukraine only. We see the North Korean troops fighting in Europe. So Putin has changed totally the core of this aggression. This is global already. So we need to deal with that as well and understand that this is not only for supporting Ukraine, but it's much more wider question. Fourth thing, we need to increase our defense spendings. We're going to discuss it today, and Estonia is going to make a proposal that minimum will be 2.5% minimum. And I do hope that in The Hague, NATO summit, we're going to decide that as well. And finally, we're going to discuss as well the Russian report or strategy, and we need to understand that Russia will remain a threat. Russia will remain a threat. NATO is a defensive organization. We are not attacking anybody, but we need to understand that if we give the security guarantees, that Ukraine must be in NATO. The only working security guarantee which is working really is NATO. I haven't seen any other in the world right now. So we need to understand that it's not only about Ukraine to give the guarantees to Ukraine, but also we are building up the European security architecture. So if we need to have the long-lasting peace in Europe, though we need to give an opportunity for everybody, all these nations who want to join NATO, this opportunity. So it has been very clear from the past as well that neutrality or the gray areas close to the Russian border, it is just a green light for Putin to move forward. So these are the main points for today from me.
NATO or nothing for Ukraine.
Sorry?
Can Ukraine really join NATO while part of its territory is still occupied?
It is possible. We have the West Germany case from the past. But before that, we need to support Ukraine to win the war until the victory. So Ukraine has not asked our troops in right now. Ukraine is asking our military support, air defense. We had a dinner yesterday with the foreign minister of Ukraine. It is very clear what they need. Good thing is that actually we have these capabilities. We have money. We have capabilities to give Ukraine. So if we would have given everything what we have gave up today, like 2.5 years, within the first year, everything would have been already done. And Russia has been put back to Russia. So we need to understand that this is crucial momentum right now. And I think that this understanding is there. I saw yesterday our allies that the understanding is there.
There was a wild day yesterday in South Korea.
My question goes to Georgia again.
Yeah.
What do you think is Georgia target of Russian hybrid attacks?
It's hard to say what is hybrid. Hybrid is everything that Russia is using for influencing neighboring countries, governments, elections. But it is unfortunately pretty obvious that the ruling party is not guiding the Georgian people towards European Union, other way, towards Russia. So what are these exact connections there on political level, business level? It's hard to say right now, especially I think that maybe you know even better. But it's an unfortunate thing. And Estonia has been very clear about supporting Georgian people, also judging these aspirations towards European Union. We have been, I think, one of the strongest supporters of that, and we will continue. And also Georgian people, they have all the right to demonstrate peacefully on the street, to speak up, and I've said many times that these elections, they doesn't see that they were just and honest elections. So the change of course is not following actually everything what Georgian people have agreed, and also from European Union side. We have delivered everything. We have delivered the visa liberation, we have delivered funds, we have agreed the next steps. But the next European Foreign Council will discuss the Georgian topic. So we have the Georgian option paper on the table from the European Commission. There are many steps that EU can do from our side as well, as a ban for the high officials, as a visa liberation questions, and many other things. So the European Union is taking the situation very seriously.
South Korea is a very important NATO partner. How concerned are you that the current political events might bring more instability in the region?
Of course, I'm not commenting exactly what happened yesterday in South Korea, but it was obvious that democracy worked very efficiently. So there was voting in Parliament. Parliament took a control over the constitutional situation, though now it's a question what is going to follow. But I'm really sorry with South Korea, because democracy worked immediately.
Proposal for a new target for defense expenditure. What time trajectory are you proposing?
We have adopted the NATO defense plans and the regional plans as well. Estonia is already put in this year 3.4% of GDP, and in addition of that, on top of that, we have 1.6 billion euros worth investment program. So it is going up to 4% for the next year, even maybe more. And these plans, if we see them, 2% is not enough. We are not fulfilling these caps what we need to fulfill. So 2.5% must be minimum. Maybe even 3%. For us, it will be really good thing. And we will propose it for the next summit in The Hague. I hope that this is a place where the allies must decide.
And when should the alliance reach this new target?
I do hope that that next year or the year later, but of course it's a discussion amongst allies, and also it's a political decisions of every country. But I want to assure one thing: GDP is an honest figure. GDP is measuring actually the burden. What is one or the other country's economy and people and societies are carrying. So I don't agree that if Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, Poland, we are closer to the aggressor, that our economies, that we can pay more and the others cannot pay. No, we have as well the pensioners, we have the social system, we have education system, we have all the same things as all the other nations. But we need to understand that Russia is a threat. We need to understand that we need to invest more to defense, to enjoy the freedom. So it is doable, but it needs the political decision. So from Estonian perspective, we already do it. Poland is putting this year 4.3% of GDP and increasing next year. And Poland is a big economy and big country. So everybody else must do it, and they can do it. So, good. Have a nice day.
Thank you.
So good morning. Very productive meetings yesterday and a very good dinner. Well, obviously, what has to be noted is that Russia, unfortunately, is posing a multi-domain strategic long-term threat to the alliance, and I would say to entire world peace. This is, of course, what we are tackling with, and also in relation to this, we have to note two things. First of all, there is no quick fix to the war in Ukraine. Well, first of all, it is not just about Ukraine. We know that Russia has very maximalist goals on its agenda. So therefore, we have to be very aware of that and also show unity in our response. And the second thing is, of course, that Russia is not only fighting itself, but it has strong allies or at least strategic partners in its war effort, which also has to be taken extremely seriously. At the same time, this is not hopeless. The war economy in Russia is showing very serious cracks to the extent that the inflation is obviously much higher than I guess the reported figures. Otherwise, the central bank would not have been forced to raise the rate to 21% even, which is a sign of ongoing capital flight, not only, typical capital as in currency, but also human capital, which of course spells trouble for the long-term future of Russia. So in the short term, it unfortunately doesn't help what comes to the battlefield. So we have to be just stronger. Also in putting economic sanctions pressure, especially on Russia. But secondly, also aiding Ukraine even stronger than we have been able thus far. And Finland is preparing its 26th sanctions package as well, also as the European Union, but defense material assistance package, yes, number 26. And we are one of the strongest providers of military aid to Ukraine as a relation to GDP. And finally, I think we should definitely look into also making use of the central bank assets of Russia, in total 300 billion euros, not just the proceeds, which of course is a very welcome and first step in this effort, because the immense suffering that Russia has been causing is of course beyond measurement in euros. But the second thing is of course that they have destroyed civilian infrastructure and other infrastructure, which is much larger in amount than the total amount of the assets. So looking forward to the discussions today.
Cable damage between Finland and Sweden.
Well, apparently the one yesterday, we don't think there was a crime behind it. It was apparently just happening on a construction site. So things like these happen. So this also means that even though there's a very massive hybrid and also sabotage campaign going on by Russia in basically all European countries, it's very important as well that we investigate before we, call wolf.
You'll discuss hybrid attacks today. What more should NATO members be doing to combat this threat?
Well, I think there are so many good efforts going on already. First of all, the establishment of the NATO Center for Critical Subsea Infrastructure, established in the summer. Also, we are working on a common response, and also, especially what comes to the resilience, that means that we have to be so much stronger in recovering. And also what comes to the cable, cut between Finland and Sweden yesterday, but the one a week or two ago between Finland and Germany and Sweden and Lithuania, all those cables have been fixed already. So even though this is of course not desirable that we have, especially if there's an outside state power behind these, of course we have to tackle with that and also be stronger in attribution. But the second thing is that we also need to recover as societies.
Do you think that NATO allies have the necessary capacities to sufficiently protect critical infrastructure? Because what we see is that most of the states are, touched a little bit unprepared.
Many things of these are within national realms. What comes to resilience and the what I would call the sort of thorough security. But of course, what we can do together and what we need to do together is share information, also do the attribution bit, especially if we have strong evidence that we have a state actor behind things. And of course, what comes to hybrid warfare, our response cannot be symmetric, because we wouldn't go and do acts of sabotage ourselves. We are remaining in the limits of international law, but our response can be asymmetric, and which also means in this regard, as I said earlier, keeping up the sanctions pressure, economic pressure on Russia, aiding Ukraine, because essentially we are then deterring against the same hostile actor.
Do you see any risk in drawing conclusions too fast on events like yesterday's with the cables? And do you think this went wrong yesterday?
Well, I wasn't drawing any conclusions. At least the official Finland wasn't doing that, and we are used to taking things calm and investigating, finding the facts, and working based on facts.
Korea, the country is a very important partner to NATO as well in the region. Are you worried that with the current political events there might be even more instability in that region?
Of course, I'm a little bit worried, and these scenes we are witnessing now in South Korea is not something anybody would have wanted to see. But we just hope that they will find a quick path to stability, but also based on the values that we share, so democracy, the rule of law, and of course the freedom of people. Thank you so much.
Good morning. This is okay, this part? Well, yesterday we had a conversation with Ukrainian foreign minister. I think it was very useful to hear the opinion of how they see the situation in Ukraine. From my perspective, I think that we usually what need to do is to shatter certain illusions that are being spread around. One of the illusions is that somehow it is possible to settle the war in Ukraine outside the battlefield. And therefore, I think it's very important to say that the war itself, the conflict itself, will only be settled in battlefield. As strong as Ukraine can be in the battlefield, as strong it will be one day in the negotiating table. There is no other way around. There is an illusion that we cannot somehow supply Ukraine with everything that it needs, and therefore we're just digging in the dirt, trying to find a couple of €100 million or dollars in order to support Ukraine. But when you look at the conflicts that have been in the recent past, take Afghanistan, take Iraq, we spent trillions, literally trillions in those wars. So when you compare how much did we spend on Ukraine, it's a fraction. So I think it's an illusion to say that we are unable to supply Ukraine with what it needs. And lastly, when we say that it's impossible to provide the security guarantees to Ukraine, again, I think it's an illusion. If we want to have peace in Ukraine, there is no other way around. We will have to supply security guarantees. And from where we stand, there is no better, no cheaper way of supplying security guarantees than actual NATO Article 5 security guarantees.
Joining colleagues' assessment that it's that or nothing for Ukraine.
That is
NATO membership or nothing. You mentioned last
night. Well, look, I mean, there are options, right? One can talk about South Korean option or Japan option, where United States on a bilateral basis provide security guarantees. But usually what they are way more costly, they are way more politically difficult to establish, because they require certain elements of deterrence in the country which gets those security guarantees. Take South Korea, for example, 2 divisions of U.S. soldiers for 70 years. So this is the security guarantee that we're talking about. NATO has ability to deter because we're a big group. So my sense is that it's actually the easiest way forward. I mean, we can talk about other options, but they're not easier.
You mentioned South Korea there. You're concerned at the situation. It's an important individual.
Yeah, I mean, it's apart from yesterday's events, which were, which are shocking, to be honest. But I mean, still, if historic example stands.
Opinion about Georgia.
The latest events in Georgia. You imposed sanctions against the high individuals, also Venezuela. What was your first thought when you found out that Georgian Dream refused to join the European Union for the next 4 years? And why did you make that decision?
Look, first of all, the decision itself, it's words, but deeds came before. Usually it's first is the word, but in this case, Georgian Dream and the government had made multiple steps to tell Europeans that they no longer wish to be in Europe. Take the law of foreign agents, take the decisions that have been made, about LGBTQI community in the country, and so many other things that have been done before they actually named what it is, what it is they are trying to do. They are trying to get Georgia out of the path to EU. So honestly, I was not that much surprised. It was a natural consequence of everything that they have been doing. Therefore, so I mean, but it was a very clear message to Georgian people, and that's why we're seeing what we're seeing. Now, when it comes to the sanctions, I think that the level of violence that is being used against the protesters, it's unacceptable. And it's not the first time. And I think that there has to be, at least a message. And I'm happy that Baltic states, we managed to agree on a certain list that was announced. And that means that I know that it's symbolic. But I hope that it works as a push for other allies, for European Union to do the same thing.
Minister, will you take some additional steps against Georgia, for example, with a suspension of visa-free regime or something like that?
Yeah, well, look, these decisions are made in the European level. So we're constantly discussing this. I'm happy that the next FAC, Foreign Affairs Council, Georgia will be as a full question. I know that new High Rep, Kaja Kallas, is ready to present an option list as to what can be presented to in that direction. Lithuania will support additional measures for this regard. Thank you so much.
Good morning, everyone. So another busy day in front of us with the session at 32 ministers, so NATO's own internal discussion preparing NATO Hague summit. So we will concentrate, of course, on the threats and what NATO does about the threats that are there for the Euro-Atlantic security. Before that, we meet as Nordic-Baltic group with the German foreign minister and the Polish foreign minister, so the Council of Baltic Sea States, in fact, but discussing obviously also what is important and concentrating on how to contain, constrain and contest Russia. Yesterday we had a very good dinner with the Ukrainian foreign minister, very open discussion, sometimes heated discussions on various views, various angles. So that is where we are today, and the alliance is as strong as ever. The Secretary General told about his meeting with President-elect Trump about the need to increase defense financing. So I think that message has come back to all the capitals. Latvia is already planning 3.5% of GDP for defense, plus internal security, plus the borders, plus everything that is needed as the external border country for the EU and NATO. I thank you.
Minister, NATO needs
Why were they heated?
Because people are like a family. They exchange views, and sometimes in the family the views not always are the same, so you exchange those views, and sometimes they are higher tones than other times, so it was good. But it was a good discussion. It was really a good discussion.
NATO needs a new hybrid strategy. What concretely are the points that you would like to see in there?
As I said, I don't like the word hybrid because there's nothing hybrid about certain types of sabotage attacks or what we have seen with regard to the undersea infrastructure damage and so on and so forth. So those are indeed part of the toolbox that certain actors use to influence our populations, influence governments, create insecurities or undermine certain way how we function. So we just have to be very aware, exchange information as much as possible among our internal agencies, have our security services aware, and make sure that they communicate to the population so that there is no misunderstanding and that people actually know that they are protected. I think that is a very important element. I thank you.
Could hybrid attacks also trigger Article 5?
I see you later.
Thank you, sorry.
Good morning. So after what we can label as an excellent discussion yesterday, we continue the ministerial meeting. Today we will be focusing on strategic issues. Today we will be focusing on issues such as security in Europe. We will be able to speak about our collective defense spending. We are a nation that is achieving the goal of at least 2% of GDP on defense spending, but that obviously is a sum that will continuously need to go up in light of current global circumstances. We will need to speak about strengthening the capacities of our defense industries. This is also a very important issue. How we will approach Russia in light of what is currently going on the ground in Ukraine, but on a global level as well. We will also be focused on the Hague Summit. I think there will be crucial decisions that will need to be made in the upcoming period in preparation for the Hague Summit, as it is. And also, I think we need to speak today about the situation in the Western Balkans. What we are extremely happy about is that NATO recognizes the Western Balkans as a region of strategic importance. And in that sense, there are worries in this region that also need to be dealt with when it comes to the stability of the European continent. We are very concerned about hybrid attacks because we have seen hybrid attacks in most of the Western Balkan countries in the last few months and years, especially coming from the obvious malign actors that exist. And this is an issue that is of crucial importance to us and something that we will also be addressing and have addressed in the past period.
What specifically should NATO members be doing then to increase resilience?
We are speaking on a strategic level, discussing with our partners, taking concrete steps and policies to counter the challenges that we have in front of us. But I think that this is an issue that must be tackled not individually by the member states, but something that we have to have a collective policy on.